In the dead of night, the waters of Tokyo Bay are a highway of lights. Orderly, predictable, safe. But on one ship, a captain makes a choice. He decides not to go around the inbound traffic, but to cut right through it. At 23:24 on March 21st, the container ship Marcliff and the APL Guam were on a collision course. A disaster which was now less than 2 minutes away. How can two ships in clear weather and vast waters steer right into one another? The answer was recorded, word for word. This is a story of two ships on opposing missions. The APL Guam was the larger of the two, 505 feet long, U.S. flagged, and inbound to the port of Yokohama. Her job for the night was simple: slow down and drop anchor in the designated anchorage. On the bridge was her master, a third mate, quartermaster, and senior Japanese pilot to guide them in. Her counterpart was the Marcliff, a 468-foot German-owned vessel outbound from the terminal. Her master had the con. Under Japanese regulations for a vessel her size, no pilot was required. Her goal was speed and efficiency. Get out of the crowded port and into the open ocean. Their paths would cross in one of the trickiest parts of the port. The Yokohama Passage, a main shipping lane, doesn't lead to the main shipping channel. It terminates abruptly, forcing departing ships to navigate through the crowded anchorage. It's a bottleneck by design. And on this night, it would become a hazardous trap. At 23:22, the Marcliff, having just left the passage, needs to head south. To do that, the master orders a turn to starboard to a new course of 155 degrees. But this turn doesn't point him to open water. It points him directly into the path of the inbound APL Guam. The master's plan is now clear. He intends to perform a starboard-to-starboard passing, squeezing his vessel through a narrow gap between the moving APL Guam and the anchored Hansa Steinburg. He believed he had just enough room. On the bridge of the APL Guam, the pilot and master see the turn. It's unexpected. It's dangerous. In a crossing situation like this, the Marcliff is the give-way vessel. The rules of the road dictate it should alter course to starboard to pass safely behind them. This turn, a turn towards them, makes no sense. Meanwhile, on the Marcliff, there is confusion. The APL Guam had its bright deck lights on and was preparing to anchor. To the Marcliff's third mate, the inbound ship's lights were confusing. He initially told investigators he thought the APL Guam was already anchored. At the same time, the ship's voice data recorder captured the master and third mate carrying on a professional but distracting conversation in their native language. They could see the ship, but they couldn't understand what it was doing. At 23:24, the APL Guam's pilot reaches for the ship's whistle. He sounds one long blast. It's a warning that they are making way. A question hanging in the air: what are you doing? The master of the Marcliff now makes his final, fatal decision. Instead of turning away to starboard, he orders a 10-degree turn to port. He is trying to aim for the gap. He has just made the collision unavoidable. The next 60 seconds are chaos. The APL Guam's VDR records her master expressing bewilderment. The pilot orders the rudder hard to starboard, a last-ditch effort to turn away. They blast their whistle again, this time with 6 short blasts, the international signal for, "I do not understand your intentions." On the Marcliff's bridge, the VDR captures the master's flawed logic. He says to his third mate in his native language, "So there is a ship on the go and we will pass between." Only now, far too late, does he seem to recognize the danger. His third mate recommends full astern, but the master replies, "No, it wouldn't work." The master was wrong. He orders the engine astern just seconds later, but it's too late. At 23:26 and 37 seconds, they hit. The bow of the APL Guam strikes the starboard bow of the Marcliff. The collision shoves the Marcliff to port, its momentum carrying it directly toward the anchored Hansa Steinburg. 12 seconds later, a second impact. The Marcliff's bow smashes into the Hansa Steinburg, bringing it to a dead stop. So how did this happen? How did a routine maneuver end in 3 container ships colliding? The National Transportation Safety Board had to answer that exact question. Their conclusion was clear and direct. The probable cause of the collision was the Marcliff's master attempted to pass between the APL Guam and the anchored Hansa Steinburg with insufficient safe maneuvering room. The master gambled. He saw a gap that investigators later determined was only about 4.5 cables wide, just 900 yards. His plan to pass between the ships left less than 2 cables or 400 yards on either side. That is an incredibly small margin for error for vessels this large. His decision to turn to port violated the international rules of the road, which baffled the experienced pilot on the APL Guam. But the critical contributing factor, the one that sealed their fate, was silence. The tragedy of this collision is how easily it could have been avoided. Both ships had radios. A single 30-second radio call from either vessel to clarify their intentions would have prevented everything. It would have replaced assumption with fact. The investigation highlights this simple failure as a key lesson. The use of VHF radio, it states, can help to dispel assumptions and provide bridge teams with the information that is needed to better assess each vessel's intentions. The second lesson is baked into the port's very design. The fact that a major shipping channel empties into an active anchorage encourages bridge teams to take the most direct route, increasing the risk of close-quarters situations like this one. Ultimately, this incident became a powerful, real-world lesson for mariners everywhere. The rules of the road are not suggestions, and in a crowded waterway, you can never, ever assume. In the immediate aftermath, both crews checked for injuries and flooding. Miraculously, no one was hurt and no pollution was reported. The APL Guam proceeded to its anchorage, while the damaged Marcliff was assigned a new spot to anchor and assess its wounds. The final cost was fortunately not paid in lives, but in dollars. The total damage to the 3 vessels was estimated at $1,178,000. A steep price for a few moments of misjudgment. The collision between the Marcliff and the APL Guam is a stark reminder that communication prevents errors. It raises a critical question for any team working offshore or in any high-stakes environment. How can a team of trained professionals not communicate? What do you think was the probable cause? Lack of communication or the decision to maneuver tightly between vessels? This channel is dedicated to analyzing these events through the eyes of a current mariner and to understand what went wrong so we ensure they never are repeated. Stay safe out there.